Next, our speaker tonight hails from Johannesburg and has been in the persuasion games since she was selling pizza at the age of 15. Since then, her love affair with sales, influence, and persuasion only got stronger. She is a behavioral change coach with more than 16 years experience as a sales professional, trainer, and coach. Today, she inspires and teaches leaders how to get buy-in into their ideas, how to be confident, and how to speak in a way that people want to listen. She is a director at Y Connect, the leader of Female Entrepreneurship Collective, and serves on the marketing committee for the Professional Speakers Association of Southern Africa. Allow the speaker to relay her real-world experience, her innate curiosity, and her unending study into human behavior. Together, we will explore the world of neuroscience, uncover the buying brain, how to get people to buy into our ideas, and how to action them too. Put down your phones, pick up your pens, and lean forward as we introduce our speaker, Yoke van Dam, who will teach us how to make the horse thirsty.
Why do some leaders get it right to make us jump out of bed in the morning, while others simply bore us to sleep and we want to ignore them? For many years, I was in the persuasion game, and I have been asking myself, why are some companies really engaged where the staff are productive and utterly happy to actually be working at that business, while others have really bad customer service and they're actually damaging the reputation of their business? So while I was selling advertising space for Entrepreneur magazine and marketing textbooks for Oxford publishers and Pearson publishers, I got so frustrated when people didn't want to actually take my advertising deals. And I'm sure you've said this yourself. You can only lead the horse to the water, but you can't freaking get it to drink, right? So tonight, today I actually want to say to you, you can make this horse thirsty. And through my studies in NLP and my real passion and actual obsession with persuasion, I'm going to be teaching you how to become a salesperson, a maven, and a connector. And it started in 2005 when a really good friend of mine cornered me, and he handed me this book. It was the very first book of Malcolm Gladwell, The Tipping Point, and he said, Yoke, I think you are this person that he's speaking about in his book, the salesperson, the maven, and the connector. And I was really intrigued, and I wanted to just tell you the story of the night ride of Paul Revere. It was the middle of the American Revolution, and Paul Revere had a rumor that the British were going to be attacking towns all the way towards Lexington. And him and another rider, William Dawes, got onto horseback, and they had to very quickly go out and get this message out. They had to spread the message that the British was coming. They had to inspire the people to literally get out of bed, get their weapons, and fight, so that the British wouldn't actually have a surprise attack on them. Why was Paul Revere so successful? Why did his message spread? Why is he now a household name in America? And why does no one know the name of William Dawes? If you want to inspire your teams to do something specifically, what leader would you rather want to be? So whether you have teams that you need to inspire, or whether you're actually trying to include your clients in a specific message and take action, I want to teach you what Paul Revere did so well. He was a maven and an authority, and what that refers to, I'm a very big fan of Dr. Robert Cialdini's work. So Dr. Robert Cialdini says, if you're an authority, people immediately trust you, and people tend to make snap judgments. So when Paul Revere actually entered the towns, everyone knew who he was. He was dressed in the right way. They knew that he had the right message and that he had the authority and that he knew what he was speaking about. When people see a person dressed in a white jacket and wearing a stethoscope in a hospital, they'll make snap judgments and assume that you're a doctor. And you could probably go over to their bed, give them medicine, and they'll take it because they'll assume that you are a doctor. What is the message that you are saying about being an authority when you are a speaker or when you're actually walking into the office? Do people see that you are the authority in the way that you are dressed, in the snap judgments, in the way you carry yourself, your posture, the language that you use? How can you become more of an authority so they can immediately trust you? The second thing that Paul Revere did really well is he was a connector. When he came into the town, he did not know any one person. He knew almost everyone, but he also knew the influencers. He knew who to speak to. So he knew who were the people that would actually make that message spread more. If you are going out to a client, do you only know the person carrying the purse? Or do you know the PAs, the wives? Do you know what really matters to those people? Or do you only care about it from a business point of view? If you are a connector, you actually want to have a deep intrinsic relationship with people. And one of my favorite vulnerability experts, and I know Lee's as well, is Brene Brown. And she speaks about vulnerability, but she says human beings have a deep desire to be connected. We want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be felt. So if you're trying to connect with people, you need to actually build relationships, whether that's in your own company or with your clients. How can you make people feel something for you? But very often, as Dr. Robert Cialdini says, most people will just jump into the business transaction. They'll immediately just say, this is the agenda for the meeting, and they immediately want to force feed a chicken down your throat even though you are a vegetarian. So how can you first try to build a relationship with a person, try to build a level of rapport before you get into business? So the research that Robert Cialdini refers to says that if you straight go into business, you would have a 55% chance of persuading that person to do business with you. While if you first find common ground and you give them a genuine compliment, you have a much greater chance, almost 90%, of persuading them to take action in the route that you're going to. On the leadership side, what is happening at the moment? How can you form tribes? Gallup does incredible staff engagement surveys, and they've proven that if you have one or more staff members that you're friends with, you would actually be much more loyal to your business, to that specific business. So is there a way for you to create social interactions for people to form tribes, whether it's through sports or any other way? At the moment, while people are working from home, how are you creating that tribes? How are you making people feel connected so they could stay more loyal to your business? And then I want to get into becoming a salesperson. That was the last thing that he was really good at. And I wanted to go into 3 areas here: reciprocity, the power of free, and scarcity. When I was working at Entrepreneur Magazine, it was quite strange for me. Whenever we went to see advertising agencies, we would arrive with either a takeaway cappuccino or we would give them a muffin. We would permanently be paying for people's lunches, coffees, and it was actually costing me a bit of money. And it didn't make sense to me, but that was what everyone else was doing, so I started doing that as well. Until they handed me the book, The Personal MBA of John Kaufman. And in this book, he explains the concept of reciprocity. And what reciprocity refers to is if you give a gift for someone else or you're paying for the bill for someone else, they'll feel the deep desire to actually pay it back in some way to you. So what can you do in some ways to actually start giving gifts to clients so that they would want to give something back to you? Dr. Dan Riley wrote the book Predictably Irrational, and he did an experiment at a university where they did an experiment with Whispers and Lindt chocolates. And he speaks about the power of free. And he says they were having a stall and students could come and they were selling the Lindt chocolates, the Lindor chocolates, at 15 cents, while the Whispers were only 1 cent. And what was very interesting is people tended to actually go for the more expensive, more premium chocolates, even though the other one was so inexpensive. But the moment they moved that price down, what do you think happened? The moment they moved it down, the diagram shifted, where they were 73% were going for Lindt chocolates. They were now going for Whispers. So the moment you can add a free into any of your offerings, people will be much more willing to go for it. So how often have you gone into Woolworths and bought 2 packets of strawberries? Or have you ever upped your delivery on Take-A-Lot or Amazon, or ordered more books or more products just to get into that free delivery? I never understood scarcity as well as when I visited a wine estate, and as I was tasting the beautiful port and having this incredible experience of this port, and they said to me, unfortunately, this port will no longer be, this is the very last 6 bottles of the estate. So if you don't buy this right now, you will never in your life have access to this ever again. And I suddenly grabbed my credit card and bought the port, even though I'd only had 2 sips of it. So when people make use of scarcity, they're actually making use of a time limit, only a certain amount of products that are available. Can you make your products a bit more scarce? And I know that some of you were probably buying products over Black Friday. So when people put a deadline for specific products, that actually increases your sense of urgency. I noticed some irrational behavior in myself. The moment something might be removed from the shelves or it might be censored, we want more of it. So what happened when The President's Keeper came out and the publishers were saying it might be censored by the government? I immediately went and bought the book on Kindle, even though I don't own a Kindle and I had to read it on my cell phone. So how can you create a fear of missing out so that people could actually have a sense of certainty? And I know you've seen this with Nando's adverts. They would create these outrageous adverts. You would know that it's going to be removed. People would all take photos of this and it would actually go viral. So they would get a lot of free advertising just due to the fact that it's being removed. One of my favorite artists is Rodriguez, and I remember listening to his music. I don't know if any of you know the song Searching for Sugar Man or have actually watched the documentary that won an Oscar. And in this documentary, I actually learned the story of how Rodriguez's music was banned by the South African government because it was anti-establishment, anti-government, and how Rodriguez wasn't even aware. He was peacefully working in America, unaware that an underground movement had started in South Africa with more than 200,000 copies of his music being sold underground. So especially, I think, in a country like South Africa, if people say to us we're not allowed to do something, we want to do it more. So can you create a sense of urgency or scarcity with your products that could get people to actually take action? And then if you want to be that ideal salesperson, you need to also point out either risks or opportunities. In neuroscience, they say people either move away from a fire or they're moving towards climbing a mountain. I loved what you were saying, Steve, when you were saying you were sitting up there looking out over the mountains. I'm always saying, is your client actually trying to climb a mountain or are they actually trying to jump down from a building that's burning down? Can you point out risks or opportunities for people that can actually help them move forward? So Tony Robbins seems to believe that focusing on the pain more will move a person forward more. He says change only happens when the pain of staying the same is greater than the pain of change. And I wanted to share a little model with you from Chet Holmes, and I'll quickly just talk you through it. So Chet Holmes said at any given time, moment in time, there would be, and let's just say now in the housing market, there would be 3% of people actually right now ready to buy a home. 7% they've thought of moving, yes, And 30% haven't really thought of it. The next 30%, they don't think that they want to move house. And the other 30%, if an estate agent contacts them with a house offer, they'll throw the phone down in their ear and say, we are definitely not in the market for a house. Why are you phoning us? So what most people tend to do is they tend to think that they can only persuade up to that 70% mark. But Jade Holmes and Tony Robbins actually went and they tried to point out the risk for people, a really big family living in a small home in America. Lee, I just want to check, is that 1 minute left? Okay. And what they found is that by actually highlighting to the people that they have a 95% chance of infancy death and teenage pregnancy, people were willing to move house. So lastly, I was asked by Craig van Straten to help him raise money for a Montessori school. And my advice to him was you need to have a really strong call to action. You need to tap into the emotions and you need to make it seriously easy for the people to do that. So in his talk, actually to a Toastmaster audience, he spoke about this Montessori school, of how his daughter was never accepted on a school level, how the moment they walked into that school, people made her feel accepted, how well looked after all the equipment was. But at that moment when he was actually looking up at the ceilings, the water was leaking, and he asked the people to actually make an investment into the investment of that school. And a month later, he said to me that one of the ladies donated 300,000 to the school because he had a clear call to action, tapped into the emotions, and he made it easy. There's a summary of what we've discussed today, but all in all, I want to say to you, if you want to get people to take action, in the words of Maya Angelou, people will never forget how you made them feel. Tap into the emotions and make them feel something. And today, I really know that the speakers that made me cry and laugh are the ones that I will remember and do something about. Thank you so much for your time today. I hope that I've taught you ways how to make the horse thirsty.